Contrary to what we often believe, revolutions aren't just about toppling governments or overthrowing leaders. They can actually be any major change in how people think, act, or even how they feel. Usually, they are driven by one main factor: discontent.
Right, discontent is the spark that lights the fire of revolution. If we look back through history, many of the most famous revolutions are driven by discontent, by people being fed up with the way things are. Take the American Revolution in the 18th century, for example. The British were taxing the American colonists heavily, and yet these Americans had no representation in government. People grew frustrated and angry, and soon enough they began to fight for change.
Then there's, of course, the famous French Revolution, around that same period of time. This one was even messier. People were starving, the poor were taxed insane amounts, and the rich seemed to be living in their own bubbles. The people had had enough, and pretty soon they overthrew a multiple century-old monarchy because they're so fed up with the leaders ignoring them.
Or even the Russian Revolution of the 20th century. In 1917, Russian peasants and workers alike rose up against a system that was out of touch, corrupt, not addressing everyday people's hardships. The revolutionaries completely transformed the country because they were fed up with the way things were.
But here's a big question. How does this idea apply to today's world? Are we fed up? Well, yeah, sure. I mean, we see issues all around us. But where's the modern revolution? It's a particularly important question because in many ways, today we live in a world of convenience and comfort.
Exactly. Nowadays we have access to so many things that make our lives easier. Need a ride, an Uber is just minutes away. Hungry, food delivery is just a click away. And if you're bored, especially if you're bored, endless entertainment right at our fingertips. Streaming platforms, social media and video games, instantly available to us.
To put it another way, in a world where these quick and easy distractions surround us, it's very easy to take your mind to the big problems. In a way, we're living in a world of short-term fixes that keep us from thinking about the long term.
Complacency. According to Merriam-Webster, complacency is self-satisfaction, especially when unaware of real dangers or deficiencies. Basically, complacency is being comfortable with the way things are and safe with the way things are, without challenging, without noticing the cracks all around us. Referring to Olaf's earlier point, the Romans actually discovered this short-term fix, long-term issue. They had a concept called bread and circuses. The idea was simple. By feeding the people and keeping them entertained, they wouldn't notice the issues around them. By feeding them bread and hosting massive gladiatorial games, the people in power kept the masses from noticing the cracks and issues within their society.
And here's the thing, we actually have that today, except that our gladiatorial games have turned to online streaming services, to social media, and to shopping. Coming back to the idea of complacency, in today's world it's also very active, as 25 million Americans do not have healthcare. It's a big problem, but if you're healthy, insured, it's very easy to ignore it. That's why most people don't care about it unless it stares them right in the eyes.
And actually, that's the thing about complacency. It doesn't matter to us until it's staring us right in the face. As I mentioned earlier, we have access to so many things that makes our lives easier. You wonder, why would we need to fight for change? Why would we want change?
Yeah. Actually, the average person on TikTok, who owns TikTok, spends 52 minutes a day on the app. And then that's only on TikTok. If we look at some stats, the average person lives for 72 years. Assuming they get a phone around 12 years old, they are projected to spend 18 years of their life on their phone. That's insane. That's 1/4 of their lives. But why would these big companies, governments, or media want us distracted? Well, it's pretty easy. If you're distracted, you're less likely to actually fight for changes. I mean, salaries, healthcare, and action on environmental change, it's very easy to just stay happy with what you have and ignore them.
So coming back to the idea of revolution, perhaps in our day and age, a revolution isn't overthrowing a government or toppling a leader. Perhaps revolution is challenging our own sense of complacency.
It doesn't have to be some kind of huge, unachievable act that can only be completed by a hero. It can be as simple as questioning why things are the way they are and asking if the normal is actually good for us.
Upon reflection, how many of us know more about the latest hit song and the latest TikTok trend more than we do about actual serious issues happening in the world right now?
Yeah, and once again, we are not saying that you should lay down your phone and go back to a primal way of life. We're just asking you to consider the question, What am I not seeing because I'm distracted?
Upon reflection, we need to introspect, we need to look within ourselves, we need to dig deeper into the issues that actually matter. A small change in how we think can have major differences on a global scale.
Therefore, we stand in front of you today as, in a way, two revolutionaries, wouldn't you say? And we ask you to start a protest, start a revolution, but not on the streets, but in your own minds. So ask yourself, can we be a little less complacent, a bit more curious, because sometimes the biggest changes can start with a question.